Welcome back to the Compressor Guru. We're making this recording where a kitten is playing in the corner, so if you hear extra noise, it's little tiny Marie. Today, the Guru is walking you through doing a job that you do not have big enough equipment for. And I mean capital B-I-G. You don't have the equipment to do this. But we do it through knowledge, planning, and setup. Unfortunately, we can only show you mostly the execution for this job. Now, here is the Compressor Guru.
This is the long-awaited reassembly series of the 15T Ingersoll compressor. Yes, we don't have a live studio audience. I have a live camera wipe today. So, folks, it's been a long time. We waited, I think, 2 months to get the connecting rods on this. Everything else was in stock, but we didn't want to waste freight. Let me talk about freight real quick. Anytime I ship to you, we try to find the most economical way to freight stuff to you. And every once in a while, we have a problem. Today, actually, we sent stuff to Kentucky a few days ago. The guy got it, and he says, when are you sending the pressure switch and the safety valve? They were all supposed to go in one box. The warehouse, just sent them half of this order. Fortunately, the warehouse said, oh, we'll ship that for free. We're sorry about it. I already paid the bill. Anyway, guys, we really watch out for your money like you watch out for your money. In some cases, I'm more worried about your money than you're worried about your money. I think that's part of the reason I'm still in business. Anyway, let's get started here. So, you may say, why are you sitting down with 2 bearings on a crankcase? I wanted to show you these bearings. These bearings actually have the same inner diameter to go over the crankshaft. So it is possible to screw them up and put the wrong one in the wrong place. And that's why we're sitting here. This one has a snap ring on it that will end up, when it's pushed in, be like that. Well, we can't install it with the snap ring because it's going to come through from this direction. And if you notice the outside of these bearings, one's a lot taller than the other. So if we accidentally put this one on that goes on the inside, we'd never get this one through that outside hole. So I wanted to show you there's a major difference in these bearings. In some of the smaller compressors, the 2475, I think the bearings are the same size, but one has a snap ring and one doesn't. But I just wanted to point this out, and I think it's time we get to work.
You know, I like how you bolted down that thing.
Stay tuned.
The crankcase.
It's not bolted down to the pallet.
No.
Stay tuned. You'll find out why I did that. Folks, this crankcase and the crankshaft do not fit in my press. That's why we took this crankcase apart using the forklift and a sledgehammer, and we're going to have to do something similar putting it back together. Stay tuned and you'll find out what we do. So we're going to take and we're going to heat the inner race. The large bearing goes to the connecting rod side of the crankshaft. We're going to raise the temperature up on this inner race, and we're going to take a pair of pliers, and I got to get my pliers. We're going to take a pair of pliers, we're going to pick it up and drop it down. It doesn't matter which way it goes on here. But you can see it's going to be a neat fit going down on there.
It doesn't matter? It doesn't have a front and a back?
This doesn't. The other one does. This one doesn't.
Really?
They're identical.
Are you going to catch the garage on fire with this one?
Garage set on fire.
Is that kind of reminiscent of an episode we did a long time ago?
Now, important safety tip. This is a cutting torch. I don't want to accidentally cut anything, so I put the lever up so I can't accidentally cut my bearing.
And that's what that does? Oh, who knew?
killing me, woman.
Well, I don't know. Some of you might have known. I didn't know.
I can see a slight discoloration of the silver bearing going to just a very light blue.
Now here we are with pliers and not our fingers.
Self-preservation, baby.
Woohoo!
That's simple. Now, real important, folks, we have a spacer that you don't dare forget.
Oh, that's not just part of the machine you press and so on. That's a real
No, that's a
spacer
real
that goes
spacer.
with it.
That came off of this.
Oh.
And we need to think about this. This snap ring needs to go on the outside of this bearing. The outside of this bearing is where the flywheel goes on here. So you can see there's not a lot of room left once the spacer's on. I'm going to set that on there.
Are you heating it too?
Oh yeah.
Why? Oh. Uh-oh. Careful, it'll dance right off there. This is why he keeps me around, folks. I'm good for him.
Folks, if I wasn't on the clock and trying to get this work done, we would try something new. And in the future, I'm going to try something new. And I want you guys to tell me what you think. We have a kitchen stove here in the shop. This is a working shop, by the way. This isn't a studio. And I thought about putting a pan of oil on the stove, turning it on high, and watching it with, I have a non-contacting temperature gun, and boiling the oil up to about 400 degrees, and then seeing if it will slip on here. And if we had the time, this is much quicker, but I'm just curious how that would work, or if 400 degrees wouldn't be enough. We can't really get much more out of the stove than that.
Well,
Anyway.
we could, but the oil would catch on fire.
It would lower this flash point we would approach, but engine oil won't catch on fire at 400 degrees.
It's really heated up there, I can
That's
tell.
when you get it up quick.
Well, it was on a hot thing.
If you're going to leave a stupid comment, leave it to the camera wipe. There we go. That's installed. Guys, in the past, I have forgot to put the spacer on. I think we were working on a 242. This spacer is important, and it goes right there. We got one more to do. We'll heat it up, drop it on. And
You're not going to just try to do that spacer without heating it up?
no, because everything's getting hot and I'm not burning my fingers. Guys, I talk about safety. What's another word for safety? Self-preservation.
I'll ask us.
There are no stupid questions, only stupid people. I said that to a customer last week. I got the sale, he laughed. So.
There was no spacer that went underneath the very first one though, right? You're sure?
Yes.
Okay, because we don't want to have to take all these back off.
Oh, no, we don't.
They were very nice and shiny. Are these all brand new?
Yes, they are. Not this piece. The spacer and this spacer is not new. But I cleaned these up very nicely before. Before you got here with the camera.
Yeah.
So I'll make a pitch. If you want to help me buy a camera, because we've had all kinds of problems with our old Sony cameras. We'd like to go to 4K. If you'd like to help us buy a camera, find the thanks button and thank us. And if we get some generous donors, I might buy a new oxygen regulator too. Guys, like I said before, this is a working garage, and we do make a living here. We've made a pretty good living over the years, but this YouTube thing's just something we never thought would happen like it's happened. It has really changed the business, but I was just going to go buy a new camera, and when I priced out what a good 4K camera is, I decided to ask you guys for help. So I'm asking. There it is.
Well, so you even had to pat that one a little bit.
Just get it straight enough to drop. So we're going to leave that set there long enough to cool off a little bit. And then if we ever wanted to take it apart, we'd have to press it apart to get it apart. We were able to press the outside bearing and this spacer when we were disassembling. You guys weren't here for it. But the inside one, we were able to cut the outside race, and the inside race, when we cut it, was loosened up enough we actually slid it off without having to cut that inside race off like we've had to in the past. Over there to work.
Oh, you're making sure it's level.
Yep.
Are those on like a little slider in there?
There's room in the hole, yes.
Oh.
Tell you what, we'll do that. Okay, that's perfectly level.
So what did you put that crank casing on?
I put it on a cylinder, and there's a bunch of other cylinders, and every cylinder on both compressors were bad. So this just worked out right. I took a look at the low pressure cylinder, and if you want to bring the camera over here, you can see that. So if you can see down in there, the cylinder is bigger than the bottom of the hole. And we're going to take and run the crankshaft right down through there, and the end of the shaft will be sticking out the hole.
So that's actually the cement floor that I'm seeing down through there.
Yep.
And when I get off to the side here, I can try to see. I'll make this a little bit
And
more.
I did try to balance this on the cylinder by itself, and it's too heavy on the bottom to balance it. It's nice and level. And we'll use the level on the crankshaft to make sure that we're going to get a good straight start. These are on there just for support. And now that we have them in perfect place, everything's level.
So that should not move when you're trying to put the other thing in.
It should not.
Okay.
it's setting on this even, and these are just on there for support. They were up a little wee bit. I loosened them and pushed them down, and it should go straight down. So folks, this is what you do when the crankcase or the crankshaft won't fit in the hydraulic press you own. We could build a bigger hydraulic press. By the way, I did take the ring off the outside of that other bearing. So we're using the level to get the crankshaft level. What we're doing here is when I set the crankshaft down in the hole, it was a little bit crooked, and the weight in the crankshaft is enough that it stuck the bearing slightly crooked into the hole. So through this tapping, what I'm doing is getting it to line up a little bit better, and we're using the level, and if the crankshaft will spin to the same spot or spin to a different spot, showing that it's straight. Let's try to go down.
So that's just one of those spacers.
I do believe we're started.
It is started.
More. Whoop. A little too far. It's got weight on it, that's for sure.
Okay. Now I have a little teeny tiny piece of shiny I can see.
Okay, folks, we're going to drive it down too far, and then we're going to put the snap ring on and drive it back to meet the snap ring to the crankcase. Too far is not a problem.
It's down.
Okay. Oh yeah, we went too far. Perfect. We've had some significant challenges because this crankcase is too big to go in the parts washer. It's too big to go in the press. The crankshaft is too big to work in the press. And so you saw the down-home way we put the crankshaft back in, but it's too far in. Actually, it's not locked up now. I think if it's the other way, it is locked up. But what I intentionally put this too far through, and we're going to put the snap ring on it now. Maybe.
Real snap ring pliers, because
These are ring expander pliers for putting piston rings on. that snap ring's on, camera wife. You can see we probably have a 1/4 inch between the crankcase and where the ring is. So what we're going to do is we're going to move the forklift back over here, and we're going to bump it back down to where that's just right down tight, not tight, but down against the,
So the snap ring needs to come down against the metal.
just to touch the metal, and that crankshaft will be in the perfect place. And we did it without having a press. We did it by using a level to make sure the crankcase was level. And when we finally got the crankshaft lined up and it said it was level, we put the juice to it and started hammering it, went right in.
So when you flip this over, you added a nut on the end?
Oh, I put the nut on so that we don't damage the threads when we put the forks down on it to push it in. That's the nut that'll hold the flywheel on when we're going back together.
Okay.
But we're going to take and we're going to push this down, and I was going to put the seal on it today, but we want to go have supper. Okay, hopefully this only takes one little bump.
So did you actually put weight on it from the?
There's a little bit of weight on it.
Okay.
There's a lot of weight on that. Ready? Mm-hmm. One more. Okay. My forklift, I think, is due for a tune-up.
Ta-da!
Are you happy now?
I guess.
Okay. So folks, you saw what might be the hillbilly way of putting the crankshaft back in today, but it worked. And we're going to continue with our 15T rebuild and assembly. And we have one of the harder parts done now. The problem with this is these parts are so big, we can't just manhandle them back together. We'll be using the cherry picker for the cylinders to line them up and set them on. And you need to come on back and see how the rest of this is done. There's been a lot of requests for us to finish a 15T. And nothing else, we're trying to provide. So, camera wife, you've been relatively quiet today.
Really?
Well, maybe too much of it was off camera. You should hear her off camera, folks. So, guys, thank you. God bless. More to come. We'll be doing rings and cylinders in the next episode. God bless.